Self-rectification or self-correction. Desiring to acquire the perpetual life for the flesh body, since very early man has used medicines in foods or as foods. But these medicines and foodstuff give longevity to the flesh body only. Gradually, man discovered inner powers, then knew other kinds of body, all of which are constituted from the flesh body. Since then, many sciences are established, such as acupuncture, body separation, separating the light body from the flesh body, hypnosis, treatment of diseases by talisman or incantation, or using supernatural power to walk on fire or on water surface, etc. The more deeply man directs his mind inwards, the more he discovers superpower, mystic power, cosmic energy, and finally, he can perceive the life through his spirit mind. In the process of searching for the life, man experiences these sequential steps: nourishing the life's powers, training, growing inner powers, self-rectifying, and living Tao. Self-rectification already includes nourishing life's powers and growing inner powers. In self-rectification, what matters most is that man must become the real owner of his ego in order to regulate and guide his ego. Everyone can perform self-rectification without having to wear religious clothing. And in Living Tao, there are already self-rectification, nourishing life's powers, and growing inner powers. Anyone who wants to become the real owner of his ego must 1. Know thoroughly which organs are related to the life and his way of living, and how. 2. Having understood these organs, he must also know how they function and operate. 3. Knowing thoroughly the activities and functions of each of the organs, he has to develop, improve, and make them healthy, because each creature renews continuously. Also, man has to renew constantly in a healthy and beautiful way and must be genuine and faithful in the evolution. The organs related to self-rectification are the body, the heart, the mind, the supermind, the supermind, and the character. It is most essential to see clearly all animations in these small worlds and understand the functions of each of these invisible organs. Being the genuine owner of himself, one can substitute or neutralize at will misfortunes by using his heart to create fortunes, his genuine heart to produce virtues, and transcend his mind to the supermind and the supermind by way of Tao. Many methods are used in training and also many ways in self-rectification. Man searches for the perpetual life by experimenting many methods, for there are different discernments about the constituent elements: body, heart, mind, soul, supermind, supermind, of the longevity and perpetuity. All methods by far instruct the process from outside to inside, exercising the body, rectifying the heart and the mind by two ways: direct the physiological conditions to change the psychological conditions, and direct the psychological conditions to make physiological conditions perfect. Both are done by using the mind to conduct. 1. Directing the physiological conditions. Directing the physiological conditions. Using the clairvoyance of the mind to conduct the body. Conducting the body is to direct the life's powers of the body. The life's powers of the body are based on qi and blood. Blood has less influence on the psychological conditions, while qi considerably influences the psychological state. Because of this, practitioners consider qi as the basis to train or to rectify. The mind always self-regulates with inhalation and exhalation in order to modify the state of the heart. When qi becomes regular, the mind continuously watches the breaths without thinking or recalling the past and memories. Therefore, the mind becomes genuinely void. With this voidity of the mind, the heart also contains nothing. By exercising one's body, one simultaneously sets his heart and his mind right too. This is the method of directing the physiological conditions to change the psychological conditions. 2. Directing the psychological conditions. Using the mind to shine onto the heart in order to neutralize the state of the heart, i.e., to make the heart genuinely void. Being genuinely void, the heart becomes clear-sighted, and so does the mind, consequently. The light of the mind concentrates onto the heart, and the heart, in its turn, influences the body. When the state of the heart is neutralized, the body is healthy. This is the method of directing the psychological conditions in order to make the physiological conditions perfect. Rectifying oneself requires perseverance to keep looking inwards. Man directs his eyes to watch the natural world for about half a century, but he is not satisfied with his insignificant knowledge and understanding. Therefore, watching his heart and mind for about, say, a decade is still short when compared with 5 decades. One should watch inwards until he discovers the life, then lives it and behaves with it. Both genuine Taoists and right Taoists, such as Taoist medicine, Taoist Tao, Buddhism, Christianity, etc., teach people to focus their attention on the inside, so as to discover the life. Looking inward, Taoist medicine discovers the life's powers, the life and the death animating in yang and yin of qi and blood. Watching inside, Taoist Tao observes and gains understanding of the body's longevity, which is related to qi and electric. Then the practitioner lives and operates with qi power and electric power. Reversing one's look to the inside, practitioners of Buddhism discover the life animating in the heart, the mind, the supermind, and the supermind. Looking inside, Christianity shows and teaches man about the truth, the resurrection, the perpetual life, the communication with the divine supermind, and the divine character. All these Taoists teach man to look inwards and then practice. It is very simple, but it is indeed very difficult to persevere to do this very simple thing. Looking inwards is to return to the source of creation. Mankind did go through many periods when he lived with the sacred sense and super sense organs. But when his mind develops, his way of living is full of desires for sensual pleasures. Thus, his sacred sense organ and his super sense organs are closed, and his 5 natural sense organs operate instead. If his heart and mind are become pure and clean again, the super sense organs and the sacred sense organ will operate again. The body, the heart, and the mind of parents, i.e., the sources of the embryo of life for infants, are inherited and transmitted to those of their children. The extent of inheritance depends on the nature of the states of the body, the heart, and the mind of the parents at the moment the embryo of life is created. After that, it is only the expectant mother that constitutes the foundations for the moral, sentimental, and intellectual life of her unborn child. Through gradual accumulation of intelligence and clairvoyance over many generations, children at present are more intelligent than their predecessors, and so are sins, which get a transmissible nature. Therefore, The unborn babies already bear the source of sins, although their flesh body is not yet infected by their future worldly deeds. However, in their spontaneous character, hereditary sins already exist, which will lead them astray easily. By accumulating knowledge from many generations, man nowadays is more intelligent, but he also piles up more sins. If being misled, man now is likely to be more evil and wicked than his predecessors. Looking is to see, knowing is to understand. The one who knows matters and deeds thoroughly is a skilled person. The one who understands the cause of matters and deeds is an intelligent person. The one who is able to solve problems, deal with matters and deeds, is a talented person. Talents include intelligence and skillfulness. A. Being able to solve problems, deal with matters and deeds with intelligence and logics is a talented and righteous person. B. Being able to solve problems, deal with matters and deeds with intelligence and beauty is a genius. C. Being able to solve problems, deal with matters and deeds with intelligence and virtues in order to evolve and improve others is a wise and holy person. So, the way self-rectifiers learn, making the heart and the mind right, is similar to the way a genius learns. First, one discovers the cause, then deals with matters, and then from it creates method. Genius is search for supervisible images, things and matters belonging to the supernature, about which and from which they learn, therefore they come to obtain and understand the cause. Similarly, in self-rectification, the practitioner uses the mind to learn from his own character. Even though all of his 5 natural sense organs are open, he uses his super sense organs to discover what exists in matters and deeds. Always learning, gradually the self-rectifier forgets his vulgar heart. In self-rectification, one must impose correction and punishment on oneself, or to rule, to govern oneself. To rule over others, one must use powers and the ability to act, i.e., violence or authority. To govern oneself, one only uses his willpower, determination. The willpower is the strength of the mind and includes 3 kinds. The willpower of the vulgar mind based on refined power. The willpower of the supermind formed by mystic power, human virtues or genuine virtues. And the willpower of the supermind based on cosmic energy, Tao's characters. Violence is used to rule over the wrongdoers who cannot discern between injustice and unfairness. Authority based on righteousness, the logic, is used to dominate those who can discern between the wrong and the right but intend to commit wrongdoings. However, governing others is easier than ruling oneself. It is really a talented to do such a hard thing. Self-rectifying is to set the contraries in oneself right. 1. Regarding contraries between one another, using peace and equanimity to neutralize. 2. Regarding contraries between oneself and others, also using peace and equanimity to solve. In addition, also using one's humbleness, modesty, and courteousness. 3. Contraries between one's own heart and mind within oneself are hard to solve, and there is only one way, using one's genuine cause, using the genuine cause to unite the heart and the mind, turning it into the character. In character, genuine cause exists. The character is spontaneous and supernatural. Thus, the genuine cause is spontaneous and supernatural too. When one uses peace and equanimity to neutralize contraries between oneself and another, he, the peacemaker, becomes wise, for he can discover the cause, logical cause, in the contraries from the two opposite sides. If one uses peace and calmness to neutralize the contraries between oneself and others, one rightly improves himself and evolves in virtues. Using the genuine cause to unite the heart and the mind is to live with the character and the genuine cause. Since then, there are no longer contraries, i.e., two kinds of contraries between oneself and others, and within oneself, between the heart and the mind. Self-rectifying is also leaving the inside to evolve. 1. Living with the external world, the world of the 5 natural sense organs of the flesh body. The vulgar mind progresses, the heart fluctuates, and the flesh body undergoes happiness and unhappiness, hardship and discomfort. 2. Living with the internal world, the world of super sense organs and sacred sense organ. The supermind evolves, the supermind understands thoroughly and instantly, the heart and the character feel peaceful and joyful, and the body enjoys only happiness without pain or hardship. The internal living way includes 3 levels. A. The genuine heart feels peaceful without individual feelings, only genuine feelings of mankind in an individual, animate. B. The super heart rejoices, virtues animate. The character feels an extreme joy. Tao's characters animate, i.e., the small and great cosmoses unite. Living with the inner world, Tao conducts the worldly life, i.e., one uses his heart and mind to conduct all activities of his body. During a day, how long do we live with our inner world? Being able to know the time during which one lives in which world is to be aware of one's own evolution. Self-rectifying is to evolve. In the aim to evolve, one must eliminate harmful or obstructive things. Nourishing the heart and the mind is similar to taking care of the health of one's flesh body. Nutritious foods and drinks make one's health better, while dangerous microbes and toxins harm the body. It is similar in sentimental, moral, and intellectual life and spiritual life, where vices and bad habits, immoral practices, and wickedness must be considered to be very poisonous pathogens and very tiny microbes that ruin and destroy one's moral life and spiritual life. Only virtues can make these lives good and better. Pondering carefully these virtues and then using them in one's behavior is to nourish one's sentimental, moral, intellectual life, and spiritual life. To people who spend their lives in sensations, sensual pleasures, including intense sexual pleasures, their soul spreads very slowly out of their corpse when they die. During their sleep, dreams seldom occur, or if one spends his life habitually in full sensations, sensual pleasures, and intense sexual intercourses, rarely dreams occur in his sleep, and his soul, i.e., the energies of electric and light, is hard to emanate from the blood in the flesh body. Blood contains the soul, in which a small amount of energies of electric and light is contained. Cremation is therefore an effective way, because the soul can separate more easily from the body. And because there is no longer one's real body, the soul is not attached to the flesh body, and thus easier to get transcendent. That's why sorcerers and witchcrafts, i.e., of unrighteous practice, collect clothing or soil soaked with blood of victims, from which they use incantations to capture those souls and give order to these energies to perform their will. These deeds are grave crimes because they seriously violate the cosmic law for evolution. On the contrary, righteous practices act to counter these violations. In contrary to those who spend their life in sensations and sensual sexual pleasures, practitioners train to rectify their heart and mind. So, normally, their soul already operates in their daily activities. Therefore, in the state of perfect relaxation, sleep, or death, their soul can easily spread out from the flesh body. Rectifying one's heart is to emancipate oneself, but from what? That is, to emancipate one's life out of one's death. Life and death, or birth and death, are the miraculous laws of the natural world, the visible world. They are to transmute ascendantly and evolve all creatures and species. Among the elements of man's life, they belong to the body. The body is indeed the host of two-way transmutations and evolutions via births and deaths. In this host, emancipation is to separate the real life from the death that is already established in the body. Furthermore, emancipation is to evolve the real life into the supernatural world and gradually transmute it to the perpetual life of the supernatural world. In terms of physics, rectifying oneself is to nourish mystic powers that animate in the body, separate these powers from the refined powers of blood and superpowers of Qi, and gradually change mystic powers into cosmic energy. Nourishing inner powers requires the clairvoyance of the mind, but this clairvoyance is not firmly constant, because whenever a desire arises, the body immediately becomes the boss of the mind. When the mind maintains its wisdom and clairvoyance, it directs the body and the heart, and leads them in the right way of morals, logics, genuine cause, and Tao's cause. But if the body is attracted by desires for bodily pleasures, then the perverse power of sensations in the body immediately gives orders to the mind. At that time, the vicious and debasing powers dominate over the powers of conscience, the clairvoyance and wisdom of the mind. Vicious desires and are demoniac strength that creates the power of sensations. In other words, anything that causes vicious desires holds within itself demoniac strength. Therefore, in rectifying one's heart and mind, the practitioner must identify clearly the vicious covets and consider them as tangible things, even though these covets belong to supernature or supernature. Being aware of this, the mind is able to conduct the body and the heart. Thus, it can be the real owner of the heart and the mind. Freely and gradually, it turns to be genuine mind, animating separately thanks to its own strength. It is capable of spreading out of the body and the heart. Like the detachment of Qi from the small particles of blood, then Qi gets its particular and specific strength. In addition, it can be said that only the clairvoyance and wisdom can discover the good movement in the life and in the way of living of man. Then, taking step by step, one can return to the origin of good movement. Rectifying oneself is to live in the inner world, the heart, the character, by the head and the brain. The brain is where all powers transmute both ascendantly and descendantly. When the life's powers in the brain transmute in either way, the facial appearance changes also. Living with any specific feeling, i.e., individual feeling, the physiognomy and countenance of the body change as well. Living with virtues, the facial appearance also changes. Living with Tao's characters, the facial features change. When Tao's characters animate in the heart, It produces genuine virtues, which replace individual feelings. In their turn, genuine virtues engender genuine feelings. Genuine virtues produce genuine fortunes in the body and eliminate misfortunes. Reflecting the change in his inner character, one's facial features change. Rectifying oneself is to set oneself free. But how many kinds of freedom are there? There are two kinds of freedom, the freedom of the body and the freedom of the heart and the mind. Worldly people set the body free from oppression and confinement. Tao emancipates the heart from the worldliness. It is man that leads himself to the sufferings and allows fluctuating feelings to crush his heart. Troubles, distresses, worries, fear, anger, hate, resentment, revenge, jealousy, etc., confine and restrict himself. It is man's worldly heart that deprives himself of freedom and the ease in his living. Tao emancipates man's heart from worldliness, sets it good and right by logical cause, and makes it saintly by genuine cause and Tao's cause. By which methods and procedures can the heart of man be emancipated? By self-rectifying and practicing the effectiveness of self-rectification. How can man take the path of self-rectification? There are numerous herbs, useful natural substances, methods, and procedures to cure and restore one's bodily health. Similarly, there are a great number of methods to rectify and purify one's heart and mind. It is important that the practitioner knows clearly, then practices a certain method effectively. As such, he can change and ameliorate his living. How can we find the righteous methods? Regarding man, all sources that lead to righteous methods must be found right in the inside. Obtaining the truth right in one's living, perceiving the miraculousness of the cosmos in one's own life and life's powers, finding the established structure of the cosmos, three cosmic worlds, right in one's own life, discovering the origin of transmutations in one's own life, knowing thoroughly the truth related to the causes, logical cause, genuine cause, and Tao's cause. Identifying the 7 sacred life powers of Yang and Yin in the 4 sacred substances and the infinite changes via their diversifying combinations. Discovering the established structure of the 3 small worlds in man's body. Knowing thoroughly the origin of transmutations in order to be aware of the perpetuity. Based on these inner discoveries related to the heart, the mind, the supermind, the supermind, and the character, all righteous methods and procedures have been formed. But if one does not understand thoroughly the truth, he may become doubtful. In lack of conviction, his living is not at ease. Because of his own mistrust, sometimes his living may even make himself and others troubled emotionally and mentally. Doubts in one's self-rectification weaken one's will. In lack of self-assurance, the practitioner cannot attain Tao. Being uncertain, he does not know the truth in himself and thus becomes degraded. Many methods have been put into use and got different levels of effectiveness. Highly effective methods, or rapid methods, are appropriate for people whose mind has evolved and well developed. Less effective methods, or slow methods, are suitable for people whose mind is not very well developed yet. Rapid methods rectify oneself right from the inside, in the supernatural and supernatural small worlds. Slow methods rectify oneself from the outside in, from the natural small world to the supernatural small world. Rapid methods, from the sacred and miraculous nature, then creation with intelligence and clairvoyance, then being intelligence, one's deeds are performed with the concentration of mind and then attention. Slow methods, from attention to concentration of mind to intelligence and then clairvoyance and then sacred character. In physical terms, rapid effectiveness results from the refinement, growing, of inner powers. These powers exist in latency and animate in each other. Mystic powers can pass through chi powers and blood powers, which means mystic powers animate in the powers of chi and blood, much as electrons move in the electric wire. More generally, supernatural powers move in natural powers, or the supernature exists and animates in latency in the nature. Thanks to this, the heart, the supernature, can be aware of all animations of the body, the nature. Cosmic energy can pass through blood powers, chi powers, and mystic powers. In other words, cosmic energy exists in latency in refined powers, superpowers, and mystic powers. Thus, the supernature animates in the supernature and the nature. The heart, therefore, is aware of all animations of the body, and the mind knows all matters and things that exist in the heart and the body. Identically, the perpetual life exists in the real life and also in the life and death of the body. The life and death of the body, when the body dies, i.e., stops animating, the heart and the mind continue to exist and animate. When the body dies and the heart stops operating, only the mind, the knowing and understanding, exists. When both the body and the heart die, and all functions of the mind stop, only the cause of the cosmos in the light of the mind exists. In other words, the method of refinement exists in the method of self-rectification, and in any method there is no separation for analysis. In fact, physical nature is also of moral and spiritual nature. As a confirmation, it can be seen clearly that when man operates with his heart, chi powers gather in the body, and the electric powers in the nervous system and electric vessels flow to the brain. With such effect, man begins to operate with his head only. When man operates with his mind, his electric from the nervous system starts accumulating in the head, and his light gathers in the brain. Man begins to live with the brain. So it suffices to say that living with the heart and the mind is to live with the head and the brain only. Then all powers of yang and yin of a human electric and the energies of yang light and yin light gather in the head and the brain. When human electric and the light of man concentrate on the head and start diffusing, these powers can go beyond the atmosphere. They reach the absolute level of power when human electric are transmuted fully into the light in the brain. When the energies of the light, yang and yin, focus on the whole brain, i.e., in all units of the brain, they mix together. At that moment, the light radiates. That means when the brain ceases operating, yang light and yin light in the brain cease operating too. They unite with each other, but still animate in an extremely static state, thus immediately produce the radiation. The radiating light shapes a halo and gets the same substance as that of the cosmic light. The united light of yang and yin is called the supermind. In other words, the supermind, the halo, is the united light getting the absolutely mighty energy. It is constituted by yang light and yin light in the mind when they cease moving and mix together. So, moving state is also static state. In man, at that moment, the state of the mind is life equal to death, and vice versa, or life equal to life's powers. In this state, man's knowing and understanding do not rely on the intermediary functions of the 5 natural sense organs and the super sense organs, but knowing and understanding communicate with the latent energy existing in all causes of the cosmos and becomes omniscience or all-knowing. In brief, man's head is where man can transmute ascendantly all powers of the cosmos existing in himself. But the key with which man uses to open and close is the brain only. Does the living way of the practitioner lose his activeness and enthusiasm in social activities? The living way of self-rectification by the practitioner is very active and lively. Why? When he knows thoroughly the original cause of the cosmos, i.e., he gets omniscience, he has to also know and understand the specific and particular structures and the formations of numberless phenomena. The perpetual life is also the light, which produces countless species and creatures of different shapes, appearances, and various activities. However, they all come from the same origin of life, the source of transmutation. Different shapes and forms and various activities reflect the abundance and diversity of the creation. It includes the perfection with its goodness and genuine beauty, without any error in the common living among all species and creatures. From them spreads the absolute clairvoyance of the creation and the time of realization. The activeness of the practitioner exists in his studies and his practical uses. Anyone who wants to learn the clairvoyance and the abundance of the creation must first search for and learn right from himself, because man is a perfect creature holding within himself the goodness and genuine beauty as those of the great cosmos. Then the practitioner studies about miracles, the supernatural and supernatural sciences related to the heart and the mind. But these miracles stay out of the understanding of those who live only with the flesh body. One studies and learns about oneself from the experiences, knowledge, and skills from his own activities and from past generations. The supernatural phenomena in his dreams and visions, for him to find out the genuine cause, the supernatural visions that show in advance the coming events in his course of living, for him to fulfill. The revelations perceived by his sacred sense, based on which he discovers Tao. Then he takes initiatives to develop Tao's cause. In summary, studying and learning about oneself are to learn about all that have occurred in the living of the flesh body, to learn and study from one's vulgar heart, genuine heart, and super heart, and from one's vulgar mind, genuine mind, super mind, and super mind, or to learn from all happenings in one's 3 natural, supernatural, and supernatural small worlds through one's worldly person and the revelation to him from the Creator. By this way of learning, the practitioner progresses from a capable person to a talented one and finally to a genius. The sources of creation by a genius are from his experiences, knowledge, and understanding of the supernatural and supernatural worlds. He knows and understands things, matters, and causes through his super mind, via his sacred sense organ, and through his supermind via his super sense organs. These creations from the heart and the mind are realized through the accurate combination of many senses, super senses and sacred sense, or the combination of the body, i.e., the 5 natural sense organs, and the heart, feelings, genuine feelings and virtues, and the mind, thoughts, operating simultaneously with accuracy. With small words in man's living that are related to capability, talent, and genius. Capability is related to the body, the heart, and the mind. Talent connects to the heart and the mind. A talented person is related to the heart and the mind. B. A genuinely talented person is related to the heart, the mind, and the supermind. A genius is related to the mind, the supermind, and the supermind. The activeness and vigor in the self-rectification for evolution belong to the supernatural and supernatural spheres of activities. For instance, feelings are related to Qi, belonging to the supernature. If one can identify the occurrence of one's feelings, it means he can perceive a supervisible entity. The intensity in the occurrence of feelings is the speed of feelings. Seeing supervisible facts of existence is a way for the mind to shine inwards. Another way is to judge oneself by repentance. This is used to ameliorate one's moral life and spiritual life. Its effectiveness gives power to the mind, which then can control and conduct the body's activities in alignment with the divine cause. The one who can perceive supervisible entities is living an inner, more sentimental, moral, intellectual life, and able to observe supervisible facts of existence. He can decrease or neutralize the speed of his feelings, troubles, and be the real boss of his own vulgar heart. At this moment, he is living with his genuine heart and genuine mind, or, in other words, living with the supernature of the heart and the mind. The supernature of the heart and the mind is the combination of human character and the divine character. Being related to cosmic electric, man's thoughts belong to the supervisible nature, but the occurrence and intensity of thoughts are more rapid than the occurrence of feelings. The speed of man's thoughts is higher than any speed of Qi belonging to the natural world. Its speed is equal to that of the sunlight, or even higher if one practices effectively. A thought is a supervisible entity. It is created by an invisible entity, the mind. The one who can perceive his thoughts, a supervisible entity in its very high speed, is living a life deep inside, the spiritual life. He can decrease or neutralize at will the speed of his thoughts and be the master of his own mind. The one who is able to control the extremely high speed of life is living with the supernature of his purest mind. Living with the purest mind is to live with the divine character animating in latency in human character. The one who lives with the purest nature of the mind, supermind, and supermind attains Tao. What can one perceive and know through his purest mind? Man's heart is mysterious and marvelous, but the character is miraculous. Knowing all mysteries and marvels of the heart is to know thoroughly the heart's nature. Knowing the miracles of the cosmos in man's body is to become aware of the cosmic character. Knowing thoroughly one's own heart's nature and becoming aware of the cosmic character in oneself, one can become the master of the mystic mechanism of the small cosmos. Rectifying oneself is to progress gradually inwards and to live inner activities. And this is not related to the space and time of the visible or natural world, not bound to the natural world in such comparisons as birth and death, fortunes and misfortunes, good lucks and bad lucks, etc. That means it separates from the natural world. In man, this process begins from the body inwards. The heart, if separating from the body, becomes genuine heart. Virtues originating from the genuine heart are genuine. Genuine virtues are exempt from comparative nature, while virtues of individual heart still get comparative nature and thus are still comparable and opposable. Genuine feelings result from the genuine heart, while common feelings come from the vulgar heart. Originating from the genuine heart, the heart's nature of mankind, genuine feelings have no comparative nature, but worldly feelings belonging to the individual heart state are comparable and opposable. Separating from the body, the mind becomes genuine mind. Town's characters originating from the genuine mind have no comparative nature. From the above-mentioned explanations, we can notice that being outside the heart is not rectified or purified. Being outside, the mind is not rectified or purified. When the heart and the mind animate deep inside, they become genuine. With the genuine heart and the genuine mind, it is really self-rectifying. When one's heart and mind look inwards, one can be conscious of goodness and badness, rightness and wrongness, falseness and truth. Be conscious of one's words and deeds. Be conscious of one's thoughts and put one's mind and conscience into conversation. This conversation neutralizes strong sensual desires. When the outside and the inside still exist, desires, strong impulses, and disputes still appear. When there are still one and others, desires, impulses, and controversies still exist. Living within one's own self, there are no longer sensual and sexual desires, no clashes of opposite views. Can one oppose oneself or feel desirous of oneself for oneself? That is all on the way of attaining Tao, nothing more. Performing seriously and sincerely, one will attain Tao. What do sensual and sexual desires lead men to? Sensual desires, strong impulses of touch, taste, flavor, sounds, colors, lead men to covets and passions. Sensual desires get the attractive power of enticement and lures. One's mind is seduced and led astray, thus cannot be the master of his own activities. How can a seduced mind get enough clairvoyance to withstand successfully seduction and temptation? What particular thing can one use to neutralize the seduction and temptation by the desires of his flesh body? Sleep is a state of genuinely void heart, in which the breaths become regular, or even when one stays awake but his heart remains genuinely void, his qi will be well balanced and constant. Therefore, the regulation of qi is one of the simple procedures to neutralize strong desires and seductive power of sensual covets. When qi is well regulated, seductive sensations and strong feelings disappear. All covets and seductive power vanish. Moreover, when the observing mind harmonizes with the animation of the breaths, the mind operates inwards only. Therefore, no more external image exists. The temptation and seduction of the flesh desires are caused by external objects. If one does not communicate with external objects, how can temptation and seduction occur? The regulation of breath has many benefits. The flesh body is not influenced by unclean and toxic qi. Blood is in good condition. The mind is clear-sighted. The heart enjoys calmness, serenity, and peace. The mind becomes the master of all the small cosmos. On the contrary, if qi is not well balanced, shortly the heart is stirred up with troubles. When emotions arouse, the heart is already infected with seductive desires. The mind becomes uncertain and doubtful. Because of this, the heart is enticed into wrong conduct. Things that overturn one's heart are fames, benefits, talents, beauties, drugs, inebriation, greeds for foods and drinks, gambling, and fleshly desires. When someone gives us praise about our talent and fame, if our heart falters, it is already infected with seductive desires. Pursuing to be the master of his small cosmos, one must always keep his heart serene and peaceful. When the heart and the mind do not get faltered by external sceneries, they are clear. This state is the basic activity of those who lead people on the way of evolution towards Tao, as well as in the amelioration of the worldly life. So, it suffices to say that being stirred up, the heart is easily captured. Being captured, it will be seduced. Being seduced, the heart will be lured into corruption or led astray. Is the heart stirred up by communicable infection from another heart state? Microbes are contagious from one's flesh body to others, and so are the heart states, spreading from one to another heart state. Rude words and manner of a vexed and annoyed person incite others and contaminate their heart state with his emotions. On the contrary, graceful, sweet words and relaxing manner of a lively and merry person transmit joy and satisfaction to others. Living with the heart, man will be easily stirred up by other infectious heart states. This contamination engenders psychological reactions. In other words, when any psychological reaction appears, it means the heart is already infected. Therefore, anyone who wants his heart state to be immune, i.e., wants to avoid psychological reactions, must stop operating his individual heart. Then his spontaneous character will begin to animate. When only the mind and the character animate, all activities are in line with the cause, which includes wisdom, clairvoyance, and freedom. Living in such way, man is emancipated from worldly troubles and stresses. The absolute perfection of the harmony of human heart states results from the cause, logical cause, not from the unification or similarization of heart states. This is because the cause is just and morally right for all times, while the heart state changes according to circumstances. The cause exists, but seems as if not to be. Therefore, it is like void. Nevertheless, all creations and creatures originate from the voidity of the cause. Thus, the voidity contains all miracles. From the knowing and understanding, man exercises, rectifies himself, and obtains the voidity in his life, called the genuinely void nature. A genuinely void body enjoys genuine fortunes. A genuinely void heart contains all genuine virtues, and a genuinely void mind contains all Tao's characters of the natural world. What does man's heart contain? When the spontaneous character changes into the heart, Both goodness and evilness are contained in the latter. This has happened since mankind lived on this earth. When all worldly goodness and evilness in man's heart stop animating, the conscience appears, in which the invisible observation and guidance of the divine supermind animates. The worldly goodness is formed by visible images through the perception by the 5 natural sense organs. These images arouse and stir up the heart, then constitute the goodness. The supernatural goodness is, however, not formed by this world, but instead results from the supernature in which goodness already exists. The worldly goodness is the basis of morals and philosophies, but the supernatural goodness perceived in the conscience belongs to the supernature. It is the character and character's energy of the genuine cause, or supernatural truth, a reality exceeding space and time of the visible world. Therefore, it is undiscussable and undebatable. The heart is an invisible place that changes man's natures, ranks, and positions. When one's feelings are stirred up, he is a worldly person. When individual feelings cease and genuine feelings animate, one is a transcendent person. So, feelings stir up, it's a vulgar person. He either has desirable qualities of feelings, and thus he is a good person, or he has evil, wicked feelings, and thus he is a wicked person. So in worldly living, there are bad feelings and good feelings. Bad feelings include hatred, anger, worry, fear, deep resentment, revenge. So this is a wicked man who gets bestial nature, evil or wicked, prefers violence, thus inflicts sufferings and pains to others. Also in worldly living, there can be good feelings, which are compassion, joy, gaiety, love. So this is good man who likes to make others happy, peaceful, and glad, because human virtues originate from good feelings. But in transcendent living, one lives with the conscience, without goodness and badness in worldly feelings. Thus, genuine virtues come from the conscience. They differ from even human virtues of a good man. Only from this kind of heart that the mind can understand the meaning of supernatural images. Both of the feelings of worldly goodness, such as loves for parents, offsprings, natural beauties, and the humanistic love at sight of others' sufferings and pains, differ from the love by a saintly person, because the love of a worldly goodness is created by visible images, while the love by a saintly person originates from the supernature through his intercommunication with the supernatural world. When the heart dies, all images contained in it vanish. This voidity of the heart gets mixed with the life. The heart contains and maintains all kinds of embryos that connect to the memory of the mind, the memorization of sensations, feelings, and thoughts assimilated from the connection with the natural world. If the heart dies, i.e., all kinds of embryos contained in the heart are removed and forgotten completely, it changes into the mind. In other words, only the purest mind and the light animates then. At the death of the heart, the 5 basic elements of the supernatural world and the natural world stop animating, and the yang and the yin of the light appear immediately. At this stage, man is no longer confined to the cycle of birth and death, but his life joins the cosmic life. In terms of physics, the heart is the animation of the yang and the yin of electric. In a vulgar heart, these yang and yin are not revealed because of the animation of the 5 natural elements, which are created by the animation and fluctuation of qi of the 5 viscera. When the vulgar heart dies, the 5 elements vanish and only yang and yin exist. Transformations, changes of shapes or states, birth and death, all belong to the functions of the 5 natural and supernatural basic elements. The moment only yang and yin exists in the heart really becomes the mind. Yang and yin are the 2 functions, the 2 cosmic energies of the light and the light itself. Therefore, the heart is the mind. It no longer contains things that belong to the natural and supernatural worlds, i.e., all that belong to the supernatural world and the 5 basic elements. Rectifying oneself is to avoid strong fluctuations of the heart. If one's feelings agitate violently, one's tongue will fluctuate or dissipate from the flesh body. To keep tongue from fluctuating, one must calm his feelings down. Worries give rise to hurry, haste, excessive excitement, loss of memory, overcrowding of thoughts, stumbling over things, inexplicit speech. So worries and fear lead to amazement. Worries and fright lead to stupefaction, and dreads lead to being dumbfounded. In all of these cases, tongue spreads out, hence a decline in or loss of intelligence, lack of alertness in the remembering mind and the thinking mind. But with joyfulness, which is eagerness, exciting actions, elation, which is haste and hurry, and strong delight, which is being excited, then tongue also fluctuates. Anger and hatred lead to deep resentment. Anger, hatred, and abhorrence lead to deep rancor. Rancor with constant intention to harm others is constant vengeance, and without happiness and peace, it is discomfort, fretfulness, and irritation. In all of these 4 cases, tongue fluctuates. Thus, the mind loses clairvoyance and reason. If tongue spreads out or fluctuates, man will encounter dangers and calamities caused by the 5 natural elements, liquid, wood, fire, soil, and metal, because the source of misfortunes already exists in the flesh body. When the heart is in great disorder or disturbance, tongue will spread out. If partly, one's life can still be saved, but if wholly, the flesh body loses vitality. When the heart fluctuates, tongue scatters. Man will encounter danger and calamities from inside and or outside the flesh body. When the heart is well balanced and stable, tongue gathers and stays invariable. When the heart is peaceful and joyful, tongue is mighty, of which the external signs are serene and bright eyes. The heart is constituted of feelings and sensations, i.e., it is formed by the animations of qi and blood. Therefore, when feelings and sensations cease fluctuating, the heart becomes well balanced and stable. When the heart is well balanced, it feels peaceful and joyful. If the state of the heart is kept constant and permanent, one will become Thân, Tiên, Buddhas, and saints. Besides the relationship between the heart and Thân, there is also an interaction between the heart and Qi. Fluctuations of the heart disturb the Qi system, while the source of illnesses is engendered by Qi. Psychological illnesses are caused by the fluctuations of the heart and the unbalanced state of Qi system. When the character animates, Qi will be well regulated, thanks to which all illnesses engendered by the fluctuations of the heart and impairment of Qi will be cured. With Qi being well regulated, all Qi vessels are in good condition. Thus, the supersense organs start to operate. When the character animates, the mind stays awake. Children live with the spontaneous character. Thus, their eyes are bright and their ears are acute and alert. The supersense organs of the one who lives with the supernatural character start to operate. Therefore, his chi body and electric body also function. He often dreams with real images and experiences in the supernatural world, and he keeps them in his mind as data. When the heart animates, the body behaves in accordance with the heart. In other words, when feelings animate, the body ought to follow the commands of the heart. When the mind animates, the body obeys the heart. The body obeys the mind, i.e., when thoughts are active, the body must follow the guidance of the mind. Thus, the body takes and realizes the orders of the heart and the mind. When the heart and the mind are active, good or bad, just or unjust, right or wrong, thoughts come from the heart and the mind. Although the heart and the mind exist, they seem as if not to, because they are invisible, while the body is visible. But the liveliness of the invisible nature controls and conducts the visible things. All matters and deeds of social man have always resulted from his heart and mind. Man can see and hear, then he utters out things that come from his heart and mind. Because all matters and deeds come from the heart and the mind, now, in order to reform, evolve, or make oneself holy, one must start from his own mind and heart. The heart is very large. It contains all things, matters, deeds, methods, and procedures, but only feelings fluctuate in the heart, while its vast immenseness has never ever agitated. The heart itself has never shivered or trembled. The divine energy is the animation in the divine mechanism. The heart contains both the divine energy and the divine mechanism, while the mind contains the divine cause. In summary, the heart contains the divine energy and the divine mechanism. The mind contains the divine cause. Living with feelings, one is either a little man or a great man. Living with the genuinely void heart, one can know the divine energy and the divine mechanism. Behaving with thoughts related to sensations and feelings are average people, but living with the genuinely void mind, one can understand the divine cause. A small cosmos is identical to the great cosmos in these followings. The energy in both gets fluctuations, increase, decrease, appearance, and disappearance. The mechanism in both functions and motions endlessly. The cause animates in endless motion. The fluctuation of the divine energy around the earth is perceptible because it belongs to liquid and chi. Identically, in man's body, sensations, blood, and feelings, chi, are easily perceived. The fluctuations of the divine energy, which connects to the circuit of planets, stars, and other celestial bodies, are in fact the fluctuations of cosmic electric, which caused rapid changes in the circuits of celestial bodies. These are extraordinary phenomena in the cosmos called celestial changes. They destroy many planets and celestial bodies. Celestial changes are caused by cosmic electric and influence two other substances, chi and liquid. Natural calamities and disasters are caused directly by liquid and chi around the earth, but in fact, cosmic electric starts to stimulate within them in the first place. Celestial changes are caused directly by the cosmic electric, but the light makes them active inside first. The fluctuations of the divine mechanism engender celestial changes. Compared to the natural calamities that are caused by chi and liquid, such as storms, typhoons, hurricanes, tidal waves, floods, snowstorms, etc., earthquakes are more dangerous because earthquakes are caused by the cosmic electric inside the earth. With gentle trembles, the earth can withstand. However, with violent quakes, the surface of the earth may well be broken quickly. Similarly, in the small cosmos, a change in one's human electric that is caused by the light may well lead to one's sudden death. Self-rectifying is to develop the supernature and the supernature inside oneself. In man, the external side connects with the natural world, but the supernature exists inside, and the supernature animates further deep inside. With the body, one communicates and associates with others. If the body dies, the contact with others stops. With the heart, one can communicate with the sacred beings in the supra-visible world. If the body dies, the heart remains. With the mind, one can communicate with the divine super-mind. If the body dies, the mind still persists. The body is alterable, but the heart and the mind are kept intact. Therefore, rectifying and training right within the heart and the mind are effective and rapid methods. In man's body, the mind is the source of descendant transmutations. If the mind ceases operating, the ascendantly transmuted energy starts functioning right at its source. Applying this comprehension in a patient in his sleeping time, the mind haunts its connection with the body and the heart. Therefore, the pain and suffering vanish in his sensations, but in reality, the suffered bodily area or part still aches. But now, put this knowledge into practical use in perfect relaxation. The effects in the practitioner are as follows. The body seems sleeping, the heart dies, only the mind stays awake lively. When the mind ceases functioning, i.e., it stops thinking, observing, and remembering, then only the light exists, because thoughts are originated by the light. Now, without thoughts, only the light exists. Once the functions of observation, remembrance, and thinking stop, the light increases gradually. Only the light continues. It is also the life and the unique life's power in man at the moment. Finally, the light stops transmuting descendantly, but transmutes ascendantly and radiates to become the cosmic light. Understanding thoroughly the miraculous functions in terms of physics, one can self-rectify easily and effectively. Yang and Yin are the miraculous functions that make the four sacred substances in the cosmos transmute in both descendant and ascendant ways. They originate from the divine super-mind. In other words, any substance in which Yang and Yin animate are related to the divine super-mind. In the cosmos, the synchronized two-way transmutations are the miraculous functions of Yang and Yin, related to the divine super-mind. In the small cosmos, whenever any activity occurs synchronously with the creative nature of Yang and Yin of any substance, the other substances animate in ascendant transmutation. For example, when the observing mind watches attentively the breaths, the light of the mind mixes with Yang Qi in exhaling and Yin Qi in inhaling. Then all four sacred substances in the body, the heart, and the mind at the moment transmute in two ways synchronously. The miraculous function of Yang and Yin is unique in the four sacred substances. The four sacred substances are different in terms of substance, essence, character, and character's energy, but Yang and Yin in them are not different. When man's life forms a whole with the nature of Yang and Yin, that life is related to the catalyzing effect by the divine super-mind, and it joins the divine energy, the divine mechanism, the divine cause, and the divine character. So, it can be said that life's powers are in the four sacred substances, but the life exists in yang and yin of the four sacred substances. If yang and yin of any sacred substance or of any miraculous organ animate, they continue to animate forever in all states, being alive, death, sleep, relaxation. Identically, when the vulgar mind has animated, it continues to do so in any state, being alive, death, sleep, or relaxation. For that reason, dreams appear in one's sleep. If the supermind has animated, it also continues to in any state. And if the supermind has begun to animate, it animates forever. Thus, yang and yin of any and all sacred substances and miraculous organs have neither birth nor death. Only the five natural and supernatural basic elements get production and suppression. Yang and yin are the life. The five natural and supernatural basic elements are life's power. In anything that gets yang and yin, the divine supermind exists. Therefore, the divine supermind animates in and influences the light of man's mind. The catalyzing effect and animation of the divine supermind always exists in man's mind. For this reason, when the light of the mind shines onto the heart becomes the conscience. When the mind's light shines onto the character becomes the cosmic character. Because the divine supermind animates in the mind's light, the clairvoyance of the mind has some similarity to the divine supermind. Thus, Tao created from man's conscience can be permanent. To rectify oneself and improve one's inner powers effectively, one must examine carefully to know thoroughly all kinds of body and their corresponding powers. Powers and sacred substances move and animate in the nature, supernature, and supernature. They move in unification, but if one of them fluctuates, it separates from the whole. This means that all sacred substances or all powers in the two cosmoses animate and move in a unified manner. However, in man's body, if a fluctuation of any of the sacred substances occurs, the unification of the two cosmoses at that moment is interrupted. The unification can be in many forms or states: sleep, perfect relaxation of the body, the heart, the mind, and the genuinely void state. Motion is the movement of a sacred substance in its circuit. Animation is the life being active in the movement of that substance in its circuit. Take the example of motion and animation in a river. The river stream moves, but in its movement, water molecules animate. The whole entity of the water molecules is the life of water animating in the water's movement, the stream. In man's body, the fluctuations of the four sacred substances are physical and psychological phenomena, i.e., they belong to the material, sentimental, moral, and spiritual natures. The fluctuations of the substances, sensations, are the fluctuations of liquid, blood. Feelings are the fluctuations of qi and electric. Virtues, or evilness, wickedness, are the fluctuations of electric. Thoughts without ego, i.e., thoughts by the genuine ego, are the animations of the light. The fluctuations of substances connect to different kinds of body. Sensations, feelings, virtues or evilness, wickedness, thoughts of individual ego, and thoughts without ego are in the flesh body. Feelings, virtues or evilness, wickedness, thoughts of individual ego, and thoughts without ego are in chi body. Virtues or evilness, wickedness, thoughts of individual ego or thoughts without ego are in the electric body. Thoughts by individual ego and thoughts without ego are in the light body. In terms of substance, sensations are blood, feelings are chi and electric, virtues or evilness, wickedness are electric, thoughts of by individual ego is electric, and thoughts without individual ego is the light. When any sacred substance animates and moves in its natural way, there is the unification of the same substances in the two cosmoses. In other words, whenever there is no fluctuation in the animation and movement of a sacred substance, the substance animates and moves in the unification with the same substance in the great cosmos. For example, when man has no sensation, immediately his chi body appears and operates. Similarly, when one has no more sensation and feeling, his electric body appears and operates. Each kind of body has its own specific structure, its own substance, powers, operating organs, natural sense organs, super sense organs, or sacred sense organ, functions, capabilities, and operating area, i.e., its corresponding small world. Thus, living with which kind of body, one can perceive the animation of the related cosmic substance in his activities. For example, operating with chi body, i.e., chi animates in all activities, one feels at ease and light, like the animation of chi. Another example, acting with the electric body, one feels transcendent in his activities, as if without gravity. Electric also gets weight, but it is lighter than those of chi and liquid, so it is not attracted to the earth like the chi's movement is. Living with which body, the power of the corresponding substance increases. Intensity of substance power equals to the animation of the substance and the duration of the animation. For example, the intensity of chi results from the animation of chi and the duration of animation. The intensity of electric results from the animation of electric and the duration of animation. But one must notice that there is another factor that causes the decrease of power. Powers exist anywhere in the mind is, and powers gather anywhere the will is. Anywhere implies two elements, space and time. Space can be visible, supervisible, or super-supervisible. Time can be present, past, or future. If the mind is kept apart from the actual time and space, it is divided or disunited. For example, if the mind recalls the past or projects into the future, its power cannot be gathered. Patience is one of the basic virtues. It is used to rectify oneself and to develop one's inner powers. It is this basic virtue that creates powers for other virtues and the energy for Tao's characters. Being patient without noticing its presence is a Tao's character. Regarding worldly matters and deeds, patience is one of the factors for successes. In one's daily and routine deeds, if one uses the mind only, one's patience will remove the elements of space and time and modify one's feelings, worry, fear, anxiety. Removing the elements of time and space and modifying the heart state, one's patience already becomes genuine virtue of the soul. In other words, when one no longer perceives time and space and has no animation of feelings, one's soul operates. From man's life, Thần, Tiên, Buddhas, saints, phantoms or demons are formed. So, which elements are they made of? These changes are not realized by the powers of blood and chi, but by mystic power. The animation produces powers which get vitalized not by chi and blood, but by mystic power. It belongs to the heart and the mind. So, what vitalizing in the heart that creates mystic power? In man's heart, there are only feelings, virtues, and evilness, wickedness, each of which energizes. Its animation creates its own mystic power. The intensity of the animation of each virtue is the intensity of that mystic power. For example, when strong affection animates steadfastly, its mystic power becomes mighty. On the opposite, if vengeance is kindled for a long time in the heart, its mystic power will increase strongly. In summary, mystic powers are originated by the animations in the heart. They may be of different natures, good, bad, poisonous, destructive, or healthy. The heart gets supernatural life's powers. Therefore, the mystic power has a supervisible shape. This particular structure is created by thoughts and constituted by the mystic power of the heart. If the mystic power is good and sound, its appearance in mental images is beautiful and pleasing. If the mystic power is bad, evil, and wicked, its shape gets tusks, clutches, claws, and extremely frightening and disagreeable. Rectifying oneself requires determined will, or firm purpose. The determined will of man is constituted from many sources: ideals, genuine cause, Tao's cause, rectification, behaviors, and development of inner powers. The ideals of one's moral life still get visible pictures. Genuine cause and Tao's cause of the spiritual life are inaccessible to view, like the life and the perpetual life are. Ideals create determined will for man. If the ideal exists, one's determined will continues. If the ideal lasts long, the determined will becomes mighty and enduring. If the ideal ends, the will vanishes. The genuine cause, or the supernatural truth, and Tao's cause create the determined will. If the goal is timeless, the righteousness persists, then the determined will endure and become a firm reliance of faith. Thus, the faith is a determined will, a way of living within invisible power. It creates invisible power.